Imagine two conflicting visions of the human world. On one side, the glowing skin of ancient Greek gods, draped in silk and bathed in light. On the other side, the exhausted, dirt-smudged faces of 19th century laborers breaking rocks in the sun. For centuries, the art world aggressively protected the first vision and actively suppressed the second. The organization responsible for this suppression was the Académie des Beaux-Arts, or the Academy of Fine Arts. This was a state-sponsored council in Paris that maintained a monopoly over Western visual culture for roughly 300 years. The Academy accomplished something vital for creators. It elevated painters and sculptors from the status of manual craftsmen to respected, wealthy intellectuals. But that elevation came with a strict condition. To enjoy that elite status, an artist had to surrender creative independence and follow the Academy's rigid rules. To understand how modern art finally broke free, we have to look closely at the mechanics of this massive state monopoly and see what it actually took to dismantle its power. The Academy held an iron grip on both the cultural conversation and the economy of the art market. Without their official seal of approval, a painter could not sell work to wealthy patrons, secure government commissions, or even call themselves a professional. To see what success looked like in this system, look at the painter William Adolphe Bouguereau. He was a primary enforcer of the Academy's rules, and his highly polished paintings of mythological scenes embodied the state's standard of beauty. But a major problem was brewing. The Academy's obsession with pristine, ancient perfection was becoming disconnected from the reality of the 19th century, a world that was industrializing rapidly right outside their gallery doors. The physical epicenter of this control was the École des Beaux-Arts, the official government-run art school in Paris. Getting inside required passing a brutal exam, which kicked off a grueling 4-year educational pipeline. Students followed a rigid progression. They spent countless hours copying plaster casts of ancient statues to master light and shadow. Only after proving their technical perfection were they allowed to paint live human models. The goal was to produce a completely smooth canvas where no human brushstrokes were visible. This pyramid diagram maps out the hierarchy of genres. At the top tier were history, religion, and mythology, deemed worthy of massive canvases. At the bottom sat everyday life and landscapes. The state viewed these as trivial, entirely unworthy of true mastery. This intense pipeline did not exist to foster individual creativity. It operated as an assembly line, engineered to filter out rebellion and mass-produce artists who complied with the state's aesthetic demands. Once an artist survived the school, they had to navigate the ultimate distribution network, the Paris Salon. This was the official, state-sponsored annual art exhibition, and it was the only venue that mattered. The physical scale of the salon was staggering. Up to 500,000 visitors would crowd into the galleries over a 2-month period to view thousands of paintings, crammed together in a dense grid reaching from the floor to the ceiling. For the artists, the placement of their work was a matter of financial survival. If the hanging committee placed your painting right at eye level, you secured wealthy patrons and steady income. If they hung your canvas near the ceiling, you struggled to find buyers. The salon functioned as a massive economic choke point. The state dictated the financial viability of every working artist, based entirely on following the rules. By the mid-1800s, the streets of Paris were transforming. The Industrial Revolution was packing cities with factory workers, and the 1848 French Revolution brought massive social upheaval to the doorstep of the elite class. Against this backdrop of poverty and brutal labor, the Academy's endless supply of pristine Greek myths and glowing heroes started to look like tone-deaf state propaganda. This friction birthed the realists. These were painters who possessed elite, Academy-trained skills, but chose to weaponize them. Artists like Rosa Bonheur rejected idealized myths, choosing instead to paint raw nature, rural peasants, and exhausted workers. The tension peaked with the painter Gustave Courbet. After the jury rejected his massive, unidealized painting of a country funeral, Courbet bypassed the monopoly completely. He built his own independent exhibition tent right outside the official grounds and called it the Pavillon du Realisme. Courbet's rogue exhibition acted as a direct antitrust strike. By charging his own admission and showing his own work, he proved to the public that art could thrive outside the walls of the state. The monopoly finally fractured in 1863. That year, the Academy's conservative jury rejected a record number of paintings, sparking massive public outrage among the thousands of excluded artists. To quiet the uproar, Emperor Napoleon III made a rare concession. He established the Salon des Refusés, the Salon of the Refused, a separate exhibition designed to let the public view the rejected art and judge its quality for themselves. Initially, the crowds flocked to this alternative gallery simply to laugh at the strange, unapproved paintings. But over time, the exposure built a massive parallel market for independent creators who ignored academic rules. The Salon des Refusés inflicted a fatal wound on the Academy. It shattered the illusion that the state was the only legitimate distributor of visual culture. As the 1900s began, the Academy's authority dissolved completely, making way for the loose brushwork of the Impressionists and the wild experiments of modernism. The highly polished academic style that ruled for 3 centuries was suddenly treated as a relic. Critics labeled it l'art pompier, a derogatory term meaning pompous art, and museums banished these once valuable masterworks to dark storage basements for decades. It is only recently that modern art historians have rescued these academic pieces from obscurity. Today, major museums display them right alongside the rebellious realist and impressionist works that overthrew them. The realists proved that a masterpiece derives its value from its ability to tell the unvarnished truth, rather than its willingness to obey institutional rules.